Howdy, folks. Hey,
Love
now we get to clap in. Yep. And now the the podcast is live. This is how we do things. We pretty much play it by ear, which is, I don't know if it's good, but it definitely makes the editor kind of frustrated at times. So it's always a fun
It's just
time.
like audio sync, and you're not trying to like move the timeline around. That would be, I think, the worst.
Oh, he told us it was completely pointless. Like, it doesn't actually do anything for him. He's like, you don't need to do that at all. And so now we're just kind of
I would do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, Joe, thanks so much for coming on. I'll try not to butcher the intro. Last time I was responsible for introducing Lily. I said, "Oh, Lily, you go by Lil C on Twitter, right?" And she was like, "No." And right off the bat, my intro was shot down. So I'll round two here, chance of redemption. But Joe Rozner, offensive security extraordinaire, head of the Paranoids OffSec team at Yahoo. Do you guys go? Is that like just the OffSec team, or kind of the whole security org is the Paranoids?
So the Paranoids is the whole security.
Okay. So head of OffSec for the Paranoids, multi-time DEFCON speaker. We'll jump into that. Proponent of FIDO rollouts for large corporations. We'll touch on that too. And someone who I think is really good about staying like on trend in terms of where red teaming is headed and does a lot of cool stuff at Yahoo. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So first off, what's your hacker name? Like that's the most important part.
I just go by Joe or Jay Rozner.
All right. Well, so we'll put on your little thing at the bottom. Those who don't have hacker names, we put OJ the Clean Boy. So you're OJ the Clean Boy for the episode. But yeah, no. I guess to jump right in it, because this is the first guest that we've had that works for a pretty major company, right? Beforehand, well, Josh now works at a much bigger company, but tell us a little bit about like running offensive security for the Paranoids at Yahoo. Like, what is the role like and the day-to-day kind of activities that you get into?
Yeah, so the role has shifted a lot as I've kind of moved through my, I guess, career here. When I first started, yeah, I was on the red team. I was just a senior security engineer, basically, hands-on keyboard operating. And then I kind of moved up to principal and was a little bit more focused on kind of the strategy side. But when I kind of moved up to the management side and kind of got, was responsible for like really setting up the operations and running remediation and all that stuff. And then in the last like year, like near the end of last year, someone else on the team got promoted up. He's now a senior manager. He's kind of running day to day on the red team. And most of my focus, and maybe like mid last year till sort of now, has been on building out the rest of the offensive security program outside of the red team. One that I've always kind of talked about the red team as I've been working on this kind of project has been like the red team is like the bread and butter. It's what like pays the bills. And the last year or so, we've been really focused on building out two new functions. One of them is our vulnerability research program, which I can talk a little bit more about, like how that's structured and what it's doing. And the other is our adversary insight program, which is something that's very new and something that we're kind of just building out. I don't know, like where you want to start.
Do you guys consider Google like an adversary?
Google?
Yeah, because I mean, you guys are Yahoo, right? So you consider Google an adversary?
I don't get to consider them an adversary.
Ask Jeeves has been the enemy for the past 20 years.
It's Lycos.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I guess we'll start on the red team side first. My day-to-day on there, like when I was kind of managing that and more hands-on, a lot of my work looked like basically coming up with operations, scoping them, going and talking with stakeholders, interviewing them, kind of like building out what, the operation was going to look like, what our goals were going to be, what we wanted to achieve, and then how we were going to do that. And a lot of that was just talking to a lot of people and figuring out kind of like who owned what within the business. We're a massive company it's kind of like a whole bunch of companies sort of glued together across the decades. And so it's always kind of an adventure trying to track down like who owns what and who's responsible for what, especially when there's like wide, like reaching products. And so I think that was like a big part of that was kind of getting these scopes together and kind of like planning for the future. Definitely not as much fun as like the hands-on keyboard stuff, but the impact you get to have is really big, and like, I think that's one of the things I really kind of enjoyed about like moving into that role is, I got to set the stage. I got to sort of say like, what do I think is going to have the biggest impact to, fixing at Yahoo, making it safer for our customers, getting to change within the organization. And that's something as like, as an individual contributor, you don't always get to have as, someone who's like, running the op or, just, on the op, kind of focused on the hacking. You don't always get to think about that. It's much more about, how do I achieve this objective?
Yeah. Do you ever get the chance to get back into being technical though? Mostly at the leadership level, I feel kind of at my side, it's always like a struggle. So curious, like how you kind of tackle it.
Yeah. So I would say like in terms of the red team stuff, not generally as much. If there's stuff that pops up that's very isolated and isn't, blocking the rest of the team, sometimes I'll get a little involved. I've been a lot more involved on the vulnerability research side and trying to like get the program up and running. But the area that I do get to be technical still, and at least at work in, is I'm still like subject matter expert. I get brought into a lot of discussions around systemic changes, big changes we want to make to the company around tech, around security. And so, I'm still consulted on that stuff. I'll be part of like working groups that kind of decide what is going to happen and how we're going to address it. Like you talked about like the 502 stuff. I was a big part of that and driving that program, and then kind of like how we were going to roll it out and what was going to happen there. Detections that get talked about or mitigations get talked about. So I still get to come in there occasionally and do that. But like a lot of the tech stuff I do now is a lot in my own time. And I'm fine with that. Like everything I do now is stuff that I want to do and not stuff that I'll have to do. And so that's kind of nice.
Oh, that's perfect. It's something I wish I could do.
So you mentioned that Yahoo is like this big conglomeration of glued together other smaller things, right? What kind of challenges does that present? Because like I work in a lot of those environments as well. We're like, hey, we're Corporation A and we own 48 smaller things. Do you see that like your smaller subsidiaries have kind of like differences in how they implement your security fixes? And does that cause some issues between like compliance to your higher up organizations?
So, I mean, I don't know that I can speak to like the compliance side really, but I mean, in terms of like, what it looks like, I mean, there's just a lot of variation in the environment. Different languages, different technologies, things are like, there's just not a lot of homogeny. And sometimes that can be painful because, you go from op to op or business unit to business unit, and you're like, you have to learn in like an entirely new thing sometimes, just because like you've never come into, this thing before, or it's an entirely new language or framework or platform or cloud environment or like set of technology that is used to run something. And so I think that's kind of like, from my perspective, like one of the hardest things and more interesting things about this is like everything is always new. Like you just, nothing is the same.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part. If everything was the same though, it'd be so easy to, lock things down.
Yeah, man, I don't think that's the worst part. I think you're right. That's part of the fun of it, is that here's an entirely brand new thing. You have in my world, you have a week to figure it out and make it do something it's not supposed to. Like, yeah, that's part of the fun of it, is you've got a week to crunch this out and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like the issue isn't fun to figure out, but like when we talk about security as a whole, you could have two people running the exact same tech stack and their implementation is going to be so wildly different that one could be so secure and the other is just getting ransomware every 3 days. That's really what I'm kind of getting at. It's like if we had the capability to keep things the same, yeah, it'd be nice, but our job would definitely be boring. Probably have been taken over by ChatGPT, 2 months ago, but thankfully it's not.
So I think that's one of the benefits that we have being like an internal team rather than contractors or consultants is that, our timelines are typically much longer. I mean, we run ops that range from, 2 to 4 months rather than like a 2-week operation. And so we get to really sit, I mean, even if we don't get to phone it in because it's still a lot of learning and startup time for it. But I mean, we get to, it's not like, we have to find deeper problems because we have more time to look at things and try different things. Whereas if you only have 2 weeks, like it's really hard to get into some of those deeper things. If you're doing like a source code audit or you're, coming up with like, rotating your phishing pretext because it fails and gets burned and you have to like rotate your environment. And so you have limited opportunity to kind of like really go deep into something, which is something that I really enjoyed that. I've never worked on the consultant side, so I haven't had to, go through that, but just from friends I've spoken to and like what I've heard about that environment, it's just a very different experience.
Yeah, no argument there. I'm actually kind of curious though about your guys's. You said the vulnerability program or research program that you guys are standing up. What's the focus there? Like, Google tends to do a lot of focus around like web and mobile kind of activities. Are you guys trying to go down a different route, or like what's the overall goal?
Yeah. So, I mean, really the goal is to find vulnerabilities before adversaries and get them fixed. Where our red team is very much focused on, how do we accomplish this scenario? How do we, this is like a world-ending scenario. Like, could this happen? Or how does this happen? Or what does this look like? The vulnerability research program is much more focused on the software side and software vulnerabilities. And it's really focused on specifically high-impact vulnerabilities, things like remote code execution, privilege escalation, off bypass, things that are going to be part of a chain that are going to lead to some serious issue. The way that we built it is kind of in 3 different parts. We have the targeted vendor assessments, which is sort of modeled after Project Zero and other programs like that, where we will pick a product that we use, we'll do an assessment of it, and we will attempt to identify vulnerabilities in it and then work with the vendor to disclose and get them fixed. Hopefully, finding them and getting them fixed before adversaries can identify them and then use them, and just basically making it so that we are safer. The other 2 parts are a fuzzing program that we stood up, and this is basically making it so that all of our code written in memory unsafe languages is fuzzable, and then building the infrastructure to kind of do that. We partnered with some of our internal teams, such as our security engineering team or paranoids engineering. They helped us build this really awesome platform to kind of scale and fan out our fuzzing infrastructure. And the last piece is what we're calling at scale variant analysis or vulnerability discovery. And basically, what this is we're using tools like SemGrep and CodeQL to kind of survey like, large amounts of code within our ecosystem, stuff that we've built internally. So, say for instance, we want to, we identify a vulnerability during like a red team operation, and maybe it's, in Java Spring apps, there's an annotation used for following authentication, and we noticed that like this was missing in one route. So, let's build something that can identify, that pattern, and let's go look at every Java app that uses Spring across the ecosystem and find out if there's any other endpoints that don't have that. So it's being able to do these like large scale surveys and programmatically define patterns that we're seeing to answer questions, identify these problems across repositories, and like get things fixed.
It sounds like a lot of work, but a lot of fun. Not gonna lie. Have you gotten an opportunity to work on it yourself, or has it all just been?
Yeah. So I mean, I've done a little bit of work on the some of the writing, kind of like designing what the program is going to look like. We're still pretty early in that. We have like proof of concepts that like we can like functionally do it, but it's still kind of far away from like production ready. That's one of the things we're trying to work on this year, is getting things ready to go so that like it is something that we can kind of scale. And when we have an idea for an experiment we want to run, we can just kind of like go and do that.
Nice. Are you guys gonna pull bug bounties? You're gonna try to charge your clients?
We're actually not allowed to expect bug bounty payments. There was concern that if we could do that, it might impact the products that we choose to look at, and so we're not allowed to accept any bounties.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I didn't think about that. Somebody has like a $20,000 bounty for an RCE, you're probably gonna be like, yeah, we should go.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that one.
One more DAC.
What's
It's
their
like
market share? 3%? Whatever, we'll go for it.
Well, remember that story a couple of years ago? The dude at HackerOne who was getting reports and triaging them and then resubmitting them to vendors as bug bounty reports?
Wait, what?
Yeah, there was an employee at HackerOne who was triaging incoming bug bounty reports, just deleting them basically, and then taking the entire text and resubmitting it directly to vendors who had like, sometimes they're on HackerOne, but also they have like an email address. And then one of the vendors was like, hey, wait a sec, this email that we got looks exactly like this other triage notification we got. The text matches up exactly, and it was busted.
What an absolute Chad.
An asshole.
Yeah,
what
but
I mean, crazy insider threat scenario that you have to kind of like plan for.
Well, we've talked before. Imagine how much someone would pay for like Microsoft's like bug bounty data at this present moment. I mean, how do you even value that?
I know. Now I got a new business model. I'm gonna go find a new job.
One's good iron HackerOne.
Who's hiring? HackerOne. What's the other ones? Microsoft. Bug Crowd. Reddit. What you got? That'd actually be kind of ridiculous. So wait, HackerOne allowed their own employees to gather? That's kind of wild.
Well, someone's got to read it and triage it, right?
Yeah, but no, I mean like gather the funds, right? Like you shouldn't be able to accept if you are the second party.
You're the broker.
Hey, you're just.
It's like imagine getting a loan and the banker was like, yeah, nah, this is mine now.
Rubber stamp my name into this.
Yeah. Oh man, that's ridiculous.
So we talked about kind of all the things you're working on. I think there's some assumption maybe by the audience that you think Yahoo, all these many parts to the business, legacy company, that you're sitting on Cobalt Strike, getting DA and evading CrowdStrike. But as you posted on Twitter this week, that's not really how you and your team is operating. So can you just talk a little bit more about like how your team is structured and like what your operations look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I can go into a ton of detail about like the internal, what our systems look like and kind of like what is happening there.
Spill the folds, dude. Just spill it.
What I can say is that a lot of the stuff that we're using is relatively low tech. I mean, if you look at like the attacks that have happened in the last year or so, things like the Lapsus attacks, most of these attacks are relatively like low tech kind of things, and phishing attacks, doing push fatigue, and it's mostly about just kind of operational maturity and like being able, and luck. I mean, to be honest, like a lot of this is like, running the operation well, but also kind of getting lucky that someone doesn't, report it, or you go unnoticed. But I think like, a lot of the stuff that we use, like it's not like we're typically like dropping Ode. It's not like we're like pivoting all over with like, Cobalt Strike. A lot of it is, a lot of these like really just like kind of basic techniques that when used by really skilled operators just work really well. And it's more about just like operational maturity and being able to execute well, and reliably. And I would say that, most of the stuff we use isn't like fancy. It's not like we have like expensive tools. It's not like we, yeah, I mean, it's really just like stuff that's been around for a while that like are well known, but just your off-the-shelf detection software just doesn't pick it up, or it's using tools and using access that you have to do things that are normal activities, but just doing it in a malicious manner.
Yeah, like PowerShell.
And this is how you were able to take out Ask Jeeves all those years ago. Skilled operators.
Killed Jeeves. Killed the butler using PowerShell.
I wonder if we own them. I don't actually know who owns Ask Jeeves at this point.
Are they still like a company though?
Yeah.
Are they?
I'm
People
pretty
are
sure it's
begging
still
that
around.
they bring back the AI, like ChatGPT with the Jeeves man.
Oh, that'd be pretty dope.
Maybe Microsoft will buy them and replace Bing with Jeeves.
Yes.
Oh,
I would pay for
wouldn't
that.
that be great? Yeah. You got to pay a $20 fee though,
Yeah.
per month. Subscriber fee for Plus. Ask Jeeves Plus. Instead of a suit, he's in a Speedo. No,
I just want a voice synthesis so he can like read back the answer to me in like
Yes.
a butlery voice.
Follow your voice.
be kind of ridiculous, right?
This is why we're not on product teams. This is why we are breakers and not builders.
I don't know, man. I've been writing my own software for a while, and I mean, the people who would buy it are obviously the same kind of people like you and I who would absolutely love an ASCII art panda as the first thing to show up, right? Like, there's a reason why Metasploit is all CLI still, and it's because that's sweet ASCII art. So anybody who uses the TACQ flag, yeah, you ain't a hacker. Get out of here.
What's the
okay.
TACQ
Get out of
flag?
here. Huh?
When you launch
What's the
Metasploit, it
TACQ
just
flag?
suppresses like the shell or the goo cow or whatever that pops up.
Yeah, so it just
Yeah.
like jumps
Quiet.
right
Just-
into
Just
MSF.
give me the terminal. Yeah.
I need to upgrade my
Does it
version
open
of
any
Calendar
faster?
to that. No. God, no. No,
Why?
it still
Not
takes
quick.
like 40, 45 seconds to load up. You gotta wonder for how long this has been around. Like, why is it so inefficient at starting? I mean, most video games start
A
quicker
lot
than
of files, and it's written in Ruby, which isn't like the fastest language out there.
fair.
Now we've lost yet another sponsor. Rapid7 and Metasploit.
Rapid7. I have a
The
few.
window.
You know what? After their little commercials of like in the dark, they're like, "Here, I'll emulate it." Hi, yeah. I'm a hacker, and here's how we got into a bank. We strapped a bomb to a rat, and yeah, it's like he's really just. I'm for any Rapid7 listeners, which probably are like 3. I mean, like, let's be honest here. Like, those commercials are so cheesy. They were so bad. So
Funny is what they are. Unfortunately,
yeah, not the intended effect.
they're funny.
Yeah, there's just the silhouette effect. But then again, like, I don't think I could come up with any better like commercial. Like, what would you come up with like as a pen test commercial that would look cool on the TV? You know, like
Super Bowl Sunday this Sunday. I'll
Super
be
Bowl
I'll
Sunday.
be on the
There's-
lookout for some good CrowdStrike commercials, or I don't know what other players do with Super Bowl
Yeah,
ads.
it's all about the vents. You gotta have like a vent scene in it where you're just like crawling through there and
Right.
like, getting into the
Dragging the
server
Cat
room.
5 with you, trying to get
Yeah.
it's like a mashup between Go Army and
Yeah,
your
exactly.
OPSEC team.
Lateral movement is like leaping from one windowsill to the next.
Yeah, wasn't it like Tide that did like commercials with a bunch of people? They'd be like, "Oh, you thought this was a Uncle Ben's
Yeah.
rice commercial? It's really for Tide."
Nope.
Yeah,
Tide.
just do that, just so it's like every single time you're just sneaking in. It'd be pretty classic. It'd be better than the QR code that we had last year.
Oh yeah, it was
So
the
the Coinbase. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they still a
Then it-
company?
went down. Yeah, they're still a company.
They're still going with it.
Dude, you have to wonder sometimes with some of these crypto like exchanges, because they'll be like, "Oh, we're a company," and then FTX, they're gone, and then their CEOs hanging out in the Bahamas, being like, "I didn't know." Ooh. Yeah, that's
Joe, have you cranked
That's
out anything
crypto.
recently in terms of like blog posts for the Paranoids or podcasts? Because a lot of people don't know Paranoids as a whole whole social media presence?
Yeah. I have not for the paranoids. I have my own blog that I started this year. That's kind of like walking through me learning like CodeQL, SunGraph, and kind of operationalizing that for like using it for vulnerability discovery, variant analysis, and kind of like augmenting my workflow. But we haven't done anything for the paranoid. I think we're hoping to have some stuff ready for this year to share. We're sort of getting ready to get that process started, but it's I'm not sure when it will be ready or come out.
We'll put your blog in the link in the bio with all the influencers that like, subscribe, smash that like button.
Hit the card over there.
There's a button. There's a button. Who's gonna be in the right corner? Who's gonna be in the left corner? There's buttons. Maybe down there. Yeah. So speaking of like stuff that you guys are getting ready on, are you trying to prepare something for DEFCON this year? Are you gonna try to talk?
Yeah, so actually I'm kind of hoping to put together a talk about a lot of the work I'm doing around static analysis, and kind of like putting together, like talking about what I'm trying to do around building out this workflow. I don't know if you guys want to kind of go into this at all, but
yeah, I mean, with all transparency, Ross and I are looking to try to submit a talk to DEFCON this year. So any sort of impartial wisdom, that's not the right word. Any sort of wisdom that you can impart on us. There we go. There's the English.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I've submitted my CFP already, so I'll wish that I hadn't as you go into great insight.
No, so honestly, that's like the best piece of advice I have is submit early, because a lot of people are like submitting at the very last minute, and they do multiple rounds of acceptance, and so if you submit early, you have if you have a better chance of getting in if you get accepted during one of the early rounds, because there's usually less people that have submitted, to that point, and they have to fill out, some subsection of the schedule, so they're going to accept stuff, during those times. So like getting in early, making sure that it's like, well written and looks like you're competent and
yeah, denied.
Kind of screws us all here.
Competency, please. No.
I think like one of the things I've heard, just from talking to people, is that like they really look for things that are novel, and so like it's kind of hard to get on like one of like the main tracks if you're talking about something that's either like not comprehensive or is kind of just like sort of like niche and not like relevant to like a lot of people. I think like they've been directing people more toward the villages for some of that stuff. But I haven't spoken at DEFCON in a number of years now, so I don't know if like any of this is still accurate. It's like it's changed. I just know like I always heard get your submissions in early. It's like one of the ways to like just generally like have a better shot.
It's good advice in general, just to less stress, right? Because then you're not like, oh shit, tomorrow's the CFP deadline, which I have done for many B-sides. Not gonna lie, sorry to every B-sides I talked. It was probably the last.
Yet another. We're just killing sponsors right and left.
B-sides, like they're like, yeah, we get it. Let's be real.
So here's the question I have for all of you that have spoken at the conference. Do you get your slides done before you get on the airplane, or do you get it done once you're there?
Oh.
Well, I've only spoken at the two, and both of them were the same talk, and both of them were with David. But the first one we went to, we were talking to the organizer, and we had it all fleshed out. Like, we were good to go, but it was just full of memery and bullshit. And so we're talking to the organizer, and she's like, "Do you have cat memes in it?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I will now." So we were making edits like on the walk up to the podium to get obligatory cat memes in there. But other than that, yeah, we had ours pretty squared away.
Yeah.
At least a couple of weeks at a time.
I feel like we're pretty good at bullshitting too. And like between Alex and I, whenever we gave that particular talk, it was kind of like, we'll figure it out when we do it. Yeah, you want to take this slide? Yeah, sure. All right. And Q, go screw with the cameraman because everything's remote or partially remote nowadays. So yeah, if anyone ever watched our Pittsburgh B-Sides talk, that poor cameraman had to like put his head on a swivel.
All over the place. And they gave us each a microphone, which was the problem. Because you're on one end and I'm on the other, and we're just no boarding. It's like shit. Oh, it's the other one.
But
yeah, I had my slides very, very much ready in advance, heavily laden with like video demos of all this stuff I was showing. And they're like, any prerequisites for the talk? I was like, nope, just an internet connection. That's all I need to show up to this conference in Italy. I'm like, all right, so how do I get hooked up to the Wi-Fi? They're like, oh, Wi-Fi is just for Italian residents. I'm like, well, I just flew like 5,000 miles. So there was like an Italian guy in the first row. I used his Android hotspot to stream like a series of 12 YouTube videos that I just watched it.
Yeah, that sounds about
Did you
right.
do it in Italian? Like you do
No,
the whole
I did not do it in Italian. I made sure to triple clarify that because I had watched all the talks from years prior and they were all in Italian. But it seems like with COVID, they kind of decided to make the global shift once they saw that like having English speakers was good. But there were a pair of speakers the same day I spoke that weren't there the entire day, rolled in at like 2:30, gave their talk, and then I was talking with them later and they're like, oh yeah, sorry we missed your talk. We were like practicing in the hallway, and they were totally just building out the slide deck from like 9 to 1:45, and then it came out.
How about you? What do you do for it? Do you wait to the last minute, or are you a stressor like the rest of us?
I used to, and then like I remember talking to someone, and like they got really upset, and like I kind of got it. Like they're like, all these people are calling and will come and like see what you're doing. And you're coming up here and you're just kind of like, bullshitting it and like you don't putting in the effort. And that's like when I really like kind of thought about it and like, I should put in more effort here. I should, come in prepared. And also like always stressed, like, trying to like put stuff together. It's probably like maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, I decided that like, going forward, I was going to basically have my slides done, ready to go, at least like in a presentable format, before I left to go to the conference. We still make tweaks and stuff if I wanted to change things or practice it and change some other stuff. But for the most part, like the slides are done and I'm ready to go, and it is so much less stressful. I don't have to like think about anything. I'm just ready to go, show up. I get to relax.
And are they scripted too? Like in addition to the slides, like would they offer you say like a teleprompter? Like I never really look behind me when I go to these DEFCON talks. Like some of them sound like they're reading off scripts, but it's always kind of hard to tell.
So it depends on the conference. At least on the main talk stages at DEFCON, they have what they call like the confidence monitors, which is kind of like a weird like term, but basically it's a so like when you plug in your laptop and you do like the keynote or the the PowerPoint or Google Slides, whatever, where you have like the 2-side display. And one side is like your view that has the speaker stuff, and one side is like just the presentation. So the monitor on the bottom is like your view. So you don't have to like stand behind your computer to see it. You can kind of like have all your stuff that's there. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this is still the same. It's been years since I've spoken at DEFCON, so like all of this could have changed.
Yeah, they have Oculus headset just.
Yeah. You're just walking around and then you walk off the stage and fall. But it's like, different conferences will do different things. A lot of the time you'll just have your laptop, and like I'm kind of used to that. And just really big speaker notes, and I have like a habit of walking a lot when I'm speaking, and so I'll always ask for like a wireless mic or like a really long cable so I don't get like tethered to like that podium.
I need like the wireless mic just so I don't talk with my hands, because when I do public speaking, they put something on here. I'm just like, yeah, going off, and people are like, put your hands down. Like, oh yeah, this is the US.
My greatest regret from B-Sides London was not taking them up on the offer for like the Justin Timberlake like over the ear headset. I just used the like mic that was attached. I was like, oh, that's fine. And then I don't know. That would have been a good video to have.
I feel like you have to do that at least once. You just look
at least once, right?
Pop star, or like you look way more important than like someone like holding a microphone in your hand.
Anyone can host a TEDx event, right? We should just host a Cyber Idiots TEDx event, and nobody's allowed to use handheld microphones. You have to use like the whole earpiece, and then you have to show up in a suit. Like, just make it super weird.
No slides.
Yeah.
Tell us about SEMGraph with no slides.
Straight, flat out. That'd be a great conference. That'd put people on their toes.
You do, like,
but the shirt has to be Hawaiian.
Yeah, there has to be some Hawaiian aspect to one part of your suit. It'd be pretty fun.
Joe, have you ever ventured into like conference organizing or CTF judging or kind of any of those more like organizational things? Or
so, I along with some other people ran Open Capture the Flag at DEFCON for a few years. That's I don't know if it's still run. It might be, but it's a the original Capture the Flag there. After a certain point, they had this qualification structure where you'd qualify in like the quals period or a number of other events after a certain point as well. And then there, at the venue, I think there were 8 teams originally, and then it expanded to 10, and then to more. So Open Capture the Flag, originally ACTF or Amateur Capture the Flag, was started by DC949. Then they handed it off to us. We ran it for a little bit, and then handed it off to another team called VAND. So I ran that. There was at Layer 1, there was an event I ran called Fail of Things, which was kind of a response to the drunk hacking complaints. I think like Day made about people like presenting this like garbage, like junk hacking like talks at conferences. Like, oh, I got a shell on this like horribly insecure like router that people own, but like isn't designed to be secure. Look how easy this is. But like, no, like it's not like you have physical access to this thing that's like not designed to be like physically hardened. It's like, okay, cool, you got a shell. I remember he was calling this out, and so I was like, we should make like a whole contest where like people just not a contest, but like an event where people just come in with like their really, really shitty bugs that like no one cares about, and you just like drop O-Day. Nothing's recorded, and you just talk about some O-Day. I think everyone got like 5 minutes, and it was just like something that like no one would actually care about, and like you're unlikely to actually get fixed, and like it wasn't worth the hassle of like doing disclosure on, because it didn't matter. Or if like the vuln like didn't give you anything at the end of the day, like it was like a privileged de-escalation or something. It was just like not well anyway. So I ran that for like a few years.
Back, I would love to do that. That sounds
yeah,
fun.
that would be fun as hell.
Yeah,
I would sponsor it personally. That just sounds hilarious.
So the best part about this is I originally had it sponsored. And I ended up getting some bug bounties from a device manufacturer, and I got like remote root on like a server that they ran like for this product, and they ended up like cutting me a check for like $100 after this. But, like, it's out of scope, and like they didn't tell me what the scope was. They're just like, here's this device, like hacked the system. And I was like, okay, well this probably is in the scope, and even like $100, they're like, it's not a big deal. And so it's like, yeah, you guys are a sponsor now. And I just took the check and
just put their name on it.
This is a clear path to how we get sponsors now. We've been wading through the darkness trying to figure out how to get sponsorship, and right there is the solution.
I mean, back to the subject at hand, I would definitely throw a party like that. You know, I think it'd be hilarious to just. I know there's other like O-Day kind of competitions out there, but something for the memes, just people gather together, and really like what the conference would be is just, you know, coming together, making some jokes, and then a lot of good food, because conferences need better fucking food.
Although my one takeaway is that I now have to rescind my DEFCON talk, which was hacking my horribly insecure router, because clearly there's just no hope of that getting accepted.
Submit early, you might get in anyway.
Yo, so what was like the best one that you got that you guys saw from that event?
Oh, man, I don't remember.
Been so long.
Yeah, I mean, this is years ago, and I also don't really feel comfortable like sharing the specifics, because like that was the whole premise, was we wasn't gonna get shared outside of it.
Guy talk style.
Yeah, exactly. And like the last event that I'm still doing now is what we call the Intercept. No relation to the newspaper, website, whatever it is. But it was designed to be like the first supply chain CTF. So we've run it twice now, and then kind of COVID screwed everything up. We're running it again this year. It's at Layer 1 in Los Angeles, and the whole premise is like so it started like the year of the super micro like grain of rice like implant on like the motherboard. So the premise is like you're like supposed to be like one of these teams that is like working at some 3-letter agency, and your mission is to basically intercept mail that's coming through to like, you know, a customer or a vendor or whatever, and you have to like physically tamper like the packaging, get into the device, and it's all 100% custom like hardware that we design and firmware. You have to, you know, physically tamper the device itself, exploit it, and solve like some number of CTF challenges. It could be reverse engineering, it could be backdooring the device, it could be like writing an exploit for it, then packaging it back up and turning it in, and then you get graded on the how well you do the tampering and how like obvious it is that you did the tampering, and then that kind of scales your flag score for like, you know, what you were able to actually solve from the contest.
That's pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
Fun.
Yeah, I've always wanted to like. I've talked to these guys about it when for like DEFCON for a CTF, because we have maybe like 400 phones for a research project right now. I've always wanted to kind of like integrate the physical with the logical in a CTF, because like think about how relevant that is in today's age, especially with like threat actors around North Korea, where they just give no fucks and they're like, ooh, tractor, USB, you know? So I want to find a way of just integrating all that together. It sounds like you kind of have done that. So I'll pick your brain offline here. You know, we don't have to talk the intermingling details and throw away all the flags for what we've been thinking, but that actually sounds cool as hell. When is Intercept 1 or the
Layer 1?
Yeah, Layer 1.
Layer 1 is Memorial Day weekend. And so last year, 2 years ago, whenever we ran the contest last, we actually shipped devices out to people all over the world to play it. And the game was built to be something distributed, because we couldn't run the event in person. This year, it's going to be local only, unfortunately, just because of technical constraints of the actual device we're building. But if anyone wants to come play, you should definitely check out Layer 1. It's a good time. It's in Los Angeles. It's nice weather.
Yeah, you should just like quit your job and build escape rooms and CTFs and.
Dude, if they had an escape room, if they had an escape room for nerds,
I did the one at DEFCON that was run by Sandia National Labs. It was an hour cybersecurity escape room, super fun.
Oh, I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was a thing there.
Yeah, it was the first time they did it last year.
Yeah,
They did a
There's
good job.
also was Gringo Warrior. I don't know if you ever saw that, like back in the day at DEFCON and some other conferences. I think TorCon was maybe where it started, but it was like some lock picking, and you had to like tackle a guard, which was like a dummy, like step on the guard before him. And, like it was this video is on YouTube, I think, of it. It's really, really funny.
I'll
We'll have to
check
link
one
that
out,
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we have to link now? We have Layer 1, we have the blog, we have Gringo
Band.
War?
Gringo Warrior.
Gringo Warrior. Wow. All right. Well, that's a name. So like other than DEFCON, what are some other conferences that we should be paying attention to as security professionals? Because I know like this is kind of a weird question to transition into, but ultimately, like for every hacker out there, we know of DEFCON, SpruceCon, you know, very, very small amount. But like this is the first time I ever heard of Layer 1, right? What are some of like the lesser known conferences that you've gone to that you think would be beneficial to have more of an audience?
A good question. I don't know. I don't really go to that many conferences, at least anymore. A lot of the stuff I went to is stuff that I was either speaking at or, you know, someone told me I have to go there. I've always really liked Shmoo. I think it's really fun. HotTakes
Which one is that?
What was that?
The first one you said, True?
Shmoo.
Oh, ShmooCon. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
TrueCon.
I didn't get a chance to go
TrueCon.
this year. It's ShmooCon.
I feel like TrueCon, and this is gonna sound bad. TrueCon would be like the Donald Trump version of
Yeah, Truth
Con.
Social. TrueCon.
Just a bunch of people. Q is real. Here's how we find him. OSINT challenge to find Q. Oh,
Joe,
God,
have you done any OSINT work? I'm doing my first, I think my first CTF ever, but the missing person CTF from Trace Labs tomorrow.
Cool. I think I've done the Trace Lab one before, played a little bit in it. OSINT has never really been like my thing personally. Nothing against it. It's just, I just don't personally find it super fun.
Did you find any missing people?
I did not.
I feel like
Sorry.
a large portion of that Trace Lab stuff, it's usually over 2-3 CTS before they actually start tracking down and narrowing on a possible location for the individuals. But no, that's exciting, Bobby. That's some good stuff. Those are they're always entertaining. I've always found the OSINT stuff really entertaining. On the flip side, I mean, as a difference from OJ the clean boy here, because it's just like there's so much on the internet, and you're like, why is there so much of this on the internet, right? Why can I go back through people's photos and find out exactly the location that they were at? Like, whose idea, like Facebook or I guess it would be Google or Apple, where they're like, you know, it'd be cool. What if we like geotagged everything? Then we could be like tracking.
Well, that leads me into another question for Joe, kind of about you've been in the industry for a long time. We all have our brands as the cyber idiots and our presence in the internet world. How have you thought about your kind of security brand over time, whether it be like conference talks or where you work or anything? Have you given it thought, or you just kind of speak and, you know, do whatever and you're Joe?
So, I mean, honestly, I haven't really been in the, like, I don't know, like security industry that long. This right now at my current job is my first like real like security focused role. I've worked at a number of security companies as a software engineer, and I had a background doing security. I mean, I grew up as a kid, like, you know, and stuff. But
yeah, we get it.
And so I mean, like I have a background in that. Like this is like the first like real like offensive security role. I never really did like blue team stuff. Like I was, you know, primarily like a software engineer, and I worked at a couple of like security companies and built security tooling. But yeah, I think like my career has kind of gone like in a number of like different ways, and like I've always kind of like I've done like big pivots. I think, and that's been like really cool because I've got to like experience like just drastically different like things. So I don't know if I have like a brand other than just like lots of like hot takes. Like I definitely like do a lot of that. And
So you're saying you've never changed your Twitter handle to Joe HotTakes Rozner? Never
no,
crossed your
there
mind?
you go. That should be your hacker name, HotTakes.
Hot takes?
That'd be solid. But you got to put like an O or an some
Like
sort
a zero,
of
like
zero. Yeah.
H0T.
An O. Yeah. We got to make it actually like logical here. Yeah. Make it super hacker and elite speak.
I'll set it up after.
Yeah, I guess the joke is from the military, right? You don't get your call sign because you choose your call sign. You get your call sign because somebody is like, that's your call sign. Like I knew this.
Showed up to our class where we had to be wearing like business attire. I showed up to the class with David, and I happened to be wearing black slacks, white shirt, and a tie. And they were like, "What are you,
like
a
a
fucking
Mormon?"
Mormon?" And that's how I became.
Yeah, he straight up looked like a Mormon. And we were like,
You don't get to
what?
pick your own call signs.
Yeah, I knew this.
Was that your call sign?
Yeah, that was
Mormon?
yes. It was Elder. So yeah, we called him Elder all the time. Like he was high up in the church.
I assume APT Big Daddy was not your military call sign?
No, I actually I used to joke whenever I would write malware.
You don't want to know what it is.
Oh yeah, no,
That's what we called it.
we can't roll around with that one here. No, but I used to, the way I got APT Big Daddy is I used to sign it in my test malware when passing it across with people at my previous employer. And it was hilarious because I thought it'd just be really funny to just be like, oh, look, APT Big Daddy. Lo and behold, my employer decided to install an agent on my machine, my development machine, unbeknownst to me. So I had no idea. And they picked up everything. And when I mean everything, I mean like everything. We had like your Mimikatz, your straight up like process injections, your process doppelgangers, like all of my like C2 ways of getting C2 on disk and executing, gone because they just picked it all up. It was not really obfuscated all that well. And it wasn't until I went into an internal threat meeting. And they're like, so we're tracking a new adversary within our environment. They call themselves APT Big Daddy. I had to be like, ooh, shit. That's me. They're like, I guess they had reported up the chain. So it was like I was actually starting to get tracked as like a full APT, and they were trying to see if there was any IOCs or any of those IOCs for other APTs that would take this name. And I had to be like, yo, fam, that's me, guys. Like full halt. Thanks for telling me that you were installing an agent on my dev host. That's cool. But
story.
Yeah, that's kind of how it got to be.
Meanwhile, you messaged me. You're like, Bobby, what's your hacker handle for the pod? I was like, Bobby R security. Bobby R sec sounds cool.
Yeah,
Did APT
joke.
Big Daddy ever make it to like threat feeds, or did it get out of the company ever?
So it went up to like the company that was installing the sensors on our device, because they're pretty much the ones who were like, "Yo, hey, pay attention." So they were the ones who tracked it, and then like internally in the company, they were the ones who blew it up. So that was a fun ordeal. It was a fun little meeting. But after that, I was like, actually, this is kind of a good name. I guess I'll take it. But yeah, my senior managers would not let me live it down. Because lo and behold, here's all this malware that we were writing, and it was going on to client machines as signed by APT Big Daddy. You know how like in Mimikatz, like the dude who wrote it, Ben, writes his name over all of the files, and that's like what signatures for most AVs. Yeah, APT Big Daddy in any file was getting caught. So I don't know if it's still the case, but I should actually go try. That'd be funny.
There's probably some Yara rule out there.
Yeah. Yeah, good times, but yeah. Yeah, we can't talk about the one I had in the military. That one was bad.
But Elder is now actually Elder. He's discovered his Mormon faith, right?
Yeah, with this pirate dungeon cave that he's got going on there. Oh man,
Joe, if you haven't seen some of the
Salt Lake every time I go through Salt Lake, so I think they're trying to keep me there.
In some of the earlier episodes, Joe, Elder had the famous kind of like sex dungeon cave of unfinished basement in the middle of nowhere, America.
It's actually a fair point on.
Still like that. This is not my house.
Talk about Montana. Yeah.
Are you in a new location like every recording?
I've been through 3 now, but 2 of them were the same spot, just like around a corner in the unfinished basement. Yeah.
Oh, that
so
would
like
be
one
good.
you could see the water heater behind me, and the other one there's a window and like a big pirate flag, and now this is the company apartment.
Nice company
With a big
apartment.
park. It's sweet. We're down here so much it's cheaper than getting hotels for everybody constantly. So
Real question is, does it have fiber?
I don't know.
Well,
It has Wi-Fi.
Fast. Oh, well, okay.
Joe, what
Yeah,
do you consider to be the hacker capital of the world? Is it Vegas in your mind, or are you trying to establish LA as the
Hard no up.
I don't know if it's again hacker capital of the world. I mean, I think probably like depends on like what you're thinking of as like the hackers. Like if you're thinking like NSA and like all of, like the Fed hackers, like maybe like somewhere on the East Coast. But like I think if we're talking like the like pop hacker shit, probably like the Bay Area is where I think a lot of like the concentration is or was at least. I mean, there's people everywhere. Like there's a big contingent like in Washington, like state. Colorado has like a big scene. There's a pretty big scene down here.
You spoke at a HushCon recently. Was that
yeah,
Washington State?
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that talk was about?
That's another.
Yeah. So that was actually about a lot of like the FIDO stuff that we had been doing, and just like the horrible experience of trying to like roll out FIDO authentication at like enterprise scale. Really miserable. It's getting better, and like I think it's like part of the problem is it's a constantly kind of like shifting experience right now as all the vendors are like slowly rolling it out on operating systems and devices, and it's kind of like changing out from under you. And you know, up until recently, a lot of vendors just like didn't support it, and it's not still very like really well supported, but it's getting better. Yeah, it's been tough.
Has the pain of that rollout been worth it? Like, have you seen any metrics that suggest like we've reduced X number of incidents, or I don't know, like what is kind of the output of that implementation?
Yeah. So I mean, I can't talk about like company specific stuff.
Sure.
But what I can say is like, you know, as an attacker, as someone who does a lot of phishing, who has done a lot of phishing, and you know, most of that phishing was very focused on doing things like cred capture. It really is effective at defeating those attacks. It's not to say that FIDO2 is perfect or that like you won't be able to phish people ever again, but like it really does address that problem. And if you're using SMS or you're using like push, some sort of like push mechanism that doesn't have some sort of additional verification, like you gotta move. Like that should be table stakes. Like TOTP is still like pretty effective and like not like the most like easily like defeated, but like something that we've seen as like attackers that like we've seen people like calling up targets, getting them to like give you like their TOTP code and like entering it once the creds have been stolen, and all sorts of other attacks like social engineering to try and like get that. It's like I think, you know, FIDO really does like protect against like that scenario in ways that like virtually every other MFA solution right now just doesn't. And so I would say like, you know, if you're not working on it already, like this is table stake. You need to be like rolling this out. If not now, like as soon as like humanly possible.
Hot take.
Note taken.
Hot
Yeah, hot take. There it is. That's solidified. Well, sweet. I know we're coming up on time here. I think we're almost at an hour. So, as is tradition, before we give one last clap, we go around the horn. I think in this case, we call out what's the next. How about the next conference that we're going to be at? I think that's a good one. We'll start with Bobby, because you're just to the right of me on the screen.
Well, of course, my DEFCON CFP is going to be not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I have like way too many CFPs out for conferences across Europe and Asia, and hopefully get to travel to cool places. So yeah, just waiting on those. But yeah, I wish I had a better answer. I haven't been accepted anywhere yet, but hopefully.
Fair enough. Joe, how about yourself?
The next one I'm going to be at is probably going to be Layer 1. So if you want to come play the Intercept, come join us. It's a great conference.
I kind of want to do that.
Yeah, I may take you up. Can we join as a team for the Intercept?
Yeah. It is a team event. It's not individual.
Okay, cool.
You're gonna get one device for your team, but I'd recommend playing as a team. It is not something that is probably going to be easy to do alone.
Yeah,
we're doing the Idiots Weekend in LA with Joe.
That'd actually be pretty sweet. I'd be down. I mean, it's LA, but I'd still be down. Yeah, we have an apartment that we can crash at without telling Alex company that we're crashing. Yeah, you don't have to know. We just publicly admitted it.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Come on, cut that part. Alex, how about yourself? Where you heading to next?
I don't know, man. I got nothing out as far as CFP stuff. I'm not planning anything right now. I'd like to, but I haven't done anything cool. So
One of the
question we
Mormon
asked earlier
conference.
about what are the benign, random, nobody gives a shit conferences, that's where I need to go. Because I haven't done anything more than that recently.
Well, I'm not going to call out a conference name in fear of getting banned from another sponsorship here. But yeah, wouldn't that be that'd be hilarious if they had a Mormon cybersecurity con.
They do.
That would be
Mix
legit.
Mormons and cybersecurity. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah. There's guaranteed there's like a BYU cybersecurity hacker team somewhere.
Which Elder leads, which is the craziest coincidence.
Link in the description.
link in the bio.
Smash that subscribe, hit that link. Yeah, for me, I'm going to be at Hack SpaceCon this year. Ross and I both. Hack SpaceCon is a little cybersecurity conference down in the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Their main focus is around, or originally their main focus was around like getting new people into the field of cybersecurity. So most of the talks were about like, expanding your knowledge and all that jazz. But they're starting to try to branch out a little bit more into the space that could be for veterans or for vendors and all that stuff. So it's ramping up to be really kind of a big con this year. Ton of tech companies or cybersec companies have been sponsoring. I guess it's the same thing, right? Like you got your Trusted Sec, Dark Wolf, whole 9 yards. Actually, I think Dave Kennedy was like, "Yeah, dropped this ton of money."
And what's your talk about?
We're talking about how you can turn literally anything into a C2. You don't need to be a super elite hacker. You just need to know how things work and how can you make it a communicative model. Right. Ross sent me a little thing. I don't know if we're going to talk about it on the talk, but Ross sent me a product link to like a biofeedback dildo. And he's like, "Bro, C2?" I was like,
Rodrigo, are you there?
Could you like use biofeedback to manipulate the API and find a way of sending commands? That'd be kind of funny, but is it practical? Absolutely not. Yeah, and highly unethical. You don't want to go. You don't want to go into an attack situation with a biofeedback dildo around.
And there goes our last sponsor. No.
What, the biofeedback?
Biofeedbackdildos.com.
Yeah,
It'll be in the cards somewhere.
Samsung, hit us up. We're chatting about your stuff. Or is it Hitachi? I don't remember. But I remember he sent it to me, and like the whole premise is like he's not so much of an offensive security guy, right? He's more of an advisory GRC kind of person. So it's our journey on teaching him like to escape from the typical like HTTP or TCP DNS kind of protocols into really just random things that you can find around your house if you really want to, or even using online services that people inherently trust, like Jira or VirusTotal, which honestly is the funniest thing I've read about since going into this. Somebody was using VirusTotal as a C2, like
uploading malware that has the command in it, and then
so what they would do is essentially like they were using the comment sections and then like calling the API to like pull the comments, and it would upload onto there. So they would like upload like a fake malware piece. It would have no alerts, to be completely empty, but they would just start chatting in there, and that's how they were doing C2. The Jira one was all based on ticket updates. That was hilarious because like who doesn't trust Jira, right? I thought a really cool one, Bobby, actually, I think you're the one who mentioned this. There was like an Israeli researcher that turned the NIC into a Morse code. So it was communicating data out through the LED
like air-gapped environments.
Yeah. So it, actually that kind of conversation, that LinkedIn post really kind of sparked the whole idea of how far can we really take it. And so now we're exploring options with like, okay, sure, you don't have to necessarily escape the network. You can use smart devices, and if you're in a home, you can turn on and off the outside light and just turn it into a nice little Morse code as well. Things like that. So we're just kind of getting goonery with it and just having a fun time, like changing up the status quo and trying to get people to think outside the box when it comes down to command and control.
And a Hawaiian shirt.
Definitely. Though I don't know if we're going to have our special edition Cyber Idiots Hawaiian shirts ready by then.
Work in progress.
Work in progress, i.e. still trying to find somebody willing to do it.
I think I have a place for you. I'll send you a link.
This is
the best
the
podcast
opposite
ever.
of a sponsorship.
I have a business proposal for you. You pay me money, we'll make you shirts.
This phase out Ross and introduce Joe as the fourth idiot and the Hawaiian shirt guy.
Yeah, we rotate people in and out. Beige Mystique, he's going to take a break. We're going to bring in Hot Take.
Hot Take. We'd love to have Joe on again with more hot takes.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're always welcome back. This was a fun conversation. I'm sure everyone around here can agree. Hopefully you agree with us too. But yeah, that's all we got. So I guess we end on the clap, right? Like we gotta make sure that Rod has his time sync. All right, Rod, we're gonna get you your time sync. Here we go. You got your time sync? All right.